I've been playing with the new Xiaomi 13 Pro for the last month or so. It has 3 cameras, sports a 1-inch sensor on its main camera, and is co-engineered with Leica. So as a professional photographer, how well does this camera actually work? What do the images look like? And does it live up to the Pro designation? So this video is definitely sponsored by Xiaomi, and because of that, it's definitely not going to be a review per se, but it's definitely what I would, call like a product showcase, which is cool because I do find a lot of the things within it particularly helpful for me as a full-time photographer and content creator. So what I'm always looking for in a mobile photography device is always going to be as close to the experience as well as the overall output that I could get out of something like my Leica cameras while still being small and pocketable and all that kind of stuff. Now, the device is fairly large, and for me, it's an easy carry, not a big deal. If I had smaller hands, this might be a little bit of an issue, but I do appreciate a lot of the design about it. It's very sleek, very just not in your face at all, which is something I appreciate. I will say, though, that the back is obviously very reflective. And so you can definitely see quite a lot of fingerprints and other things like that. And while not like a big part of this review necessarily, it does have a lot of really cool video features, including log, but also it has this like hyper OIS image stabilization kind of thing here. You can definitely film a lot more stable clips because it does some digital stabilization, which is also super helpful. So while I use this, what I tried to do is just use the features of the phone instead of trying to shoot everything in RAW and then just edit everything else. I just decided I was going to do everything on here and not actually edit the images beyond what is actually in the filters and the settings, just so we can see what you're actually getting out of here versus my skills as a post-processor. Now, what I appreciate out of here is you have a Pro app, and the Pro app is something that I've always really wanted in a mobile device. So you have your white balance, you have your focus if you wanted to manually focus, you have your shutter speed, your ISO, your exposure value, so if you want to go exposure compensation back and forth. And then on top of that, you can obviously use the in-camera styles. And the Leica branded ones are the Leica Vibrant and the Leica Authentic. As someone whose stuff and colors is a little bit more minimal, I definitely stuck with the Leica Authentic and found that most of the time it did a really good job of just giving me a really nice kind of natural look to things. And then they have other filters in here that are definitely trying to sort of like replicate other film stocks. So we have like an H400, like a KP 160. So I'm assuming that Portra 160, HP5, FC400, C50D. I'm assuming that's like a Cinestill 50D look, KG 200, like a gold look. So there are some pretty decent options within the actual device to just get you a decent look right off the bat. Now, within the system, you obviously have the 1-inch sensor on the 23mm f1.9 lens. You also have a 75mm focal length, so you have a pretty decent jump up from that 23 up to a 75. But the 1-inch sensor allows you to actually get a 50 megapixel resolution. So if you want to go 2x from that 23mm, you're getting about a 50mm-ish equivalent. And that 75mm is an f2 lens, and the 14mm, which is a ultra wide angle equivalent, is a 2.2 lens. And while this isn't part of the Leica integration necessarily, Xiaomi obviously took some Leica inspiration in their portrait mode. So you can just use the regular portrait mode as is, but then you also have access to a black and white 35mm look, a swirly bokeh 50mm look, a portrait look that is 75mm, and then a soft focus 90mm look. The black and white 35 is definitely my favorite. It just has a really good look to it. And again, while Leica didn't engineer this part, you can definitely tell they're trying to emulate like the 35 Summilux, the 50 Noctilux for the 75 Noctilux, and then that like soft focus, whatever that lens is, that's the 90mm from Leica. One of the other things I actually really appreciated was that it has this AI feature that's on here. While you use it, it can tell if it's a person or a car, or I was up in the mountains and I just clicked the button and it had like a snow icon. So It is actually pretty smart in helping you to figure out what you actually want to be doing on here, and generally just does a really good job of getting out of the way and letting you have a fairly pure experience while still giving you a lot more options than I'm used to in a lot of other mobile devices. Within all the menus and the settings, it definitely has a very kind of Leica-y feel to those menus. If you use the latest generation of cameras from like the SL2 or the Q2, you'll actually find the menu system in here as far as the photo app goes to be very similar to that. A lot of the icons and settings on here just feel a lot like going through the menu of a Leica camera, which makes things just even that much more comfortable. The 1-inch sensor in here is actually a pretty darn good sensor. Obviously, you're not going to be blown away by some shallow depth of field, but there is enough to get some subject separation, which is a pretty interesting thing. And then you can definitely tell that Leica did actually work with the color science here. And I do feel like the lenses and the cameras on here do a pretty darn good job of replicating what it would be like to actually have a more professional kind of feel to a mobile camera. I do think this is a pretty cool device. I think Leica did a good job of being incorporated into a phone camera system that actually feels like it's not just like a gimmicky thing. But I do think that their involvement did do a lot to the image quality, the color science, which does actually make this a pretty interesting camera, especially for people like myself who love Leica cameras. So thanks again to Xiaomi for sending this out. I really have enjoyed playing with this the last month or so, and thankfully we'll be able to continue to play with it as it is now part of my photo video arsenal around here. If you have any questions about it, leave them in the comments below, and if I don't know, I can definitely get you the answers to that. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all on the next one.